How do you set up a great outdoor fireplace at your short-term rental? That's what we're going to be diving into today. It's one of those amenities that can really help separate you from your competition. And if you do it well, it can be an inexpensive way to really drive revenue. I'm going to start with the two different options of fireplaces that I would recommend. One is going to be a wood burning fireplace, and two is a gas or propane fireplace. There's really pros and cons to both. My favorite is definitely a wood burning fireplace for a couple reasons, but mostly just because of the experience that you get. There's nothing quite like sitting by a real wood fireplace, smelling the smoke, hearing the fire crackle and pop, roasting a marshmallow. And remember, that's what we're in. If you're in the hospitality industry, you're in the experience industry. And so it's memorable. People have kind of flashbacks of what it was like when they were a kid and they were camping. They want to recreate those experiences with their family. And so for that reason, I definitely think wood burning fireplaces are superior. The cons to them are you've got to provide wood, or your guests have to bring it or buy it locally. You've got higher maintenance costs because you've got to clean the fire pit between every stay. You've got a higher risk of fires, disasters. You've got more safety risk. And so I would really consider the pros and the cons specifically on your property. I would also look at the space around your fire pit. And if you have a nice, clear, open space that doesn't have a lot of debris, and you put down gravel, you've got a low risk of fire, consider doing a wood burning fireplace. If you're in a heavily wooded area and you're right by a deck, or you've got all this debris close by and you're at a high fire risk, I would definitely lean more towards a propane fireplace. And so then the pros to propane fireplace is definitely going to be how easy it is, the low cost to maintain, you don't have to clean it between guests, you don't have as much fire risk, your guests don't have to bring by or you provide actual wood. And so really weigh the pros and the cons before you decide which way to go. I'm a big fan of wood burning fireplaces at larger properties where you have families staying and groups of people gathering around it. And then I'm a big fan of propane fireplaces at places that are more intimate and small, retired folks, couples traveling to. Because I know when it's just me and my wife, it's so nice to just click a button, the fire gets going, and there you are. And then when I've got my kids, they always want a wood burning fireplace and the experience of making a fire and sitting there and roasting marshmallows. And so think about that when you're setting up your property. I would also then focus on the seating around your fireplace. This is really important. And so I want to show you a couple properties. The first one on the screen here that we're scrolling through is a cabin in Tennessee. And this house sleeps 15 people. But when you look at the photo, they only have 4 chairs around the fireplace. I think it's very poorly done and a missed opportunity that they really could have capitalized on with big groups traveling. They could have created this space as a really awesome outdoor amenity. You even see the gravel pit is huge. They already have the gravel pit and the setup to accommodate 10 or 15 people out there, but they didn't properly set up the seating. They also didn't take a professional photo, so we'll get to that. And then when you see the second property over here in the same market, that fire pit is their hero shot. They didn't spend a whole lot of money on this outside amenity. It's not a $30,000 pickleball court or a $15,000 hot tub, but they did a nice job. They've got string lights. They've got great professional photos. They've got something that makes it stand out and makes it different from the competition with the Sasquatches in the back. And so this is the example of a fire pit that was poorly done over here and a fire pit that was really well done over here in the same market. Another thing I noticed is that these guys did such a great job on their fire pit that it's their very first photo. And these guys did such a poor job on the fire pit that it's their 46th photo. And so that's the difference between a few $1,000s is the difference between a reason that guests want to come stay at your house and a photo that guests are probably never going to even see because they don't get to 46 out of 80, okay? And one of the most important things when putting together a fire pit is fire safety. We have a rule of thumb when we're building fire pits, and we focus on a few things. The first is clearance. We always want to have at least 10 to 15 feet of clearance between the fire pit and any burnable material, whether that's debris a tree, a deck. And so if you look at some of our fire pits, like the one we did up here, you'll see that it's in a gravel pit and there's at least 15 or 20 feet before it gets to any debris, organic material that could burn. And so that's a big focus. Doesn't matter if you have a wood burning fire pit or a propane fire pit, I'd highly recommend having a good area of clearance. The next is keeping lighters and matches out of reach of little ones. You want to make sure that your fire starting material that you provide for your guests is up and elevated and out of the reach of little kids. I also always recommend having a fire extinguisher nearby, easily accessible and easy to identify, so that guests know if something does get out of hand that they can put out that fire quickly. Like anything, there's risk with having a fire pit at your property, but if you mitigate that risk, you set up the fire pit properly, you set your expectations with your guests, I think that it's still a great amenity to have. So make sure you're focusing on safety on top of everything, okay? And the last thing I wanted to do is I wanted to focus on the professional photography and what we see that works really, really well and what we do different. Because you can have a great space, but if you don't show it off to your guests, it doesn't really matter. All the money's made in the photos. And so I really like to start off every fire photo shoot with an evening shot. That dusk shot where you see a fire in the fire pit, your lights are strung up. It really just sets the mood for that space and gets people excited when they see it. So make sure that you're doing aerial photos or high up shots of the fire pit. Make sure you're doing dawn or dusk photos so that guests can see what it would look like as they're sitting out there in the evening and the sun's going down. And then I would make sure that you photograph the whole fire pit so people can see how big this space is and really focus on that being a great outdoor amenity that they're gonna create memories in and get them emotionally attached to coming to your property because they envision themselves sitting in that backyard, listening to music, kids roasting marshmallows on the fire pit and having a great time. And that's what hospitality is all about. So I hope this video was helpful when you are considering setting up a fire pit at your short-term rental. You've seen a couple properties done really well and done really poorly. And it's pretty amazing how just a few $1,000s can make a huge difference in how your fire pit is set up, how it looks, and the ROI that it can drive to your property. If you have any other questions, please shoot me a DM. I'm always available, and I look forward to chatting with you on the next video.